Hello, everyone. I think we're welcoming people joining in the breakout room dedicated to Reachout. Let's wait just a couple of seconds more as people are really participating to this breakout room. I see numbers going up and up. 50 people and counting. So while we're waiting, I'm one of the moderators of this session, together with Federico, who is introducing himself in a minute. My name is Francesca La Rosa. I'm here on behalf of Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change, CMCC. And in the Reachout project, I take care of a work package dedicated to business models, basically also in cross collaboration with the work package in Climate Europe 2, dedicated to business model again. I would introduce the session to you, and then I would leave the floor to Federico to introduce himself. So we're here to, again, as Yaro anticipated, talk about the H2020 Reachout project. The AAA Toolbox for City Hubs is an initiative organized by this project, which aims to enhance the resilience of European cities to climate change. The project seeks to activate city hubs and engage with users with AAA climate adaptation tools. AAA because it includes analysis, ambition, and action. The main objective of the toolbox is to accelerate urban adaptation to climate change by providing cities with the necessary resources to understand both climate risks and opportunities. The AAA Toolbox is a comprehensive, flexible, and modular platform that brings together standalone tools, fit-for-purpose visualization, and tailored climate services that support urban planning and decision-making in pilot cities. We will hear more from two of them, namely Amsterdam, Athens, Milan, Cork, Gdynia, Lillestrøm, and Logroño. Through narratives, the side event highlights the benefits of using climate services in the cities and how they can be applied in other urban areas. My co-moderator is Federico. Federico, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Francesca. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Federico Aili, and I work as Associate for Programs and Engagement in Resilient Cities Network. Resilient Cities Network is city-led organizations with nearly 100 cities focusing on urban resilience and empowering our cities on resilience projects and initiatives. We are also part of Reachout, where we mostly focus on city hubs engagement and capacity building activities. I welcome you to write also your name and your position in the chat, so I will be the first one doing it. And back to you, Francesca, for the introduction of our speakers.
Yes, thank you. So in this breakout room, we're going to go through this AAA toolbox for city hubs with the excellent guidance of two distinguished speakers, Hasse and Nieves, Hasse Guzen and Nieves Peña-Cerezo, and then we will hear more about experiences. Hasse is the Director of Climate Adaptation Services in the Netherlands. Hasse specializes in data visualization and the tailoring of climate information to local needs. Cass hosts the Dutch web portal and Atlas for Climate Information, which is being used by thousands of users per week. The second distinguished speaker is Nieves. She works in the climate change adaptation team of Tecnalia Research Center. She has deep experience in climate services design, use of Copernicus climate change service data, and adaptive planning methods. In Reachout, she leads the AAA toolkit delivery and co-leads the climate service delivery in collaboration with Cass. I would hand the floor to Hasse. Hasse, feel free to jump in any moment.
Thanks, Francesca, for the kind introduction. Yeah, so in this first part of the session, I'll be taking you through the first 1.5 years of our nice project, Reachout. Let's see, is it? Yeah, here we go. So Reachout is aimed at bridging the last mile in climate service delivery, or as we rather see it, the first mile from the perspective of the users. And the users in our case are 7 city hubs scattered across Europe. So we're really trying to co-develop a set of tools, make the outcomes fit for purpose at the city level. And we do this through 3 cycles of agile development. And the ultimate aim is to deliver a toolkit with, well, useful tool components that have sort of proven their use on the ground at the city level. We also have a training program. Resilient Cities Network did some great work there to help all the cities sort of get up to speed. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, going too fast. Yeah, this is the structure of the project. So we have 7 city hubs that we are targeting. Then we have the AAA toolkit, which we are developing with our partners. AAA stands for Analysis, Ambition, and Action. And the idea is that we take our cities through these phases of sort of adaptation planning. So the analysis phase is about risk assessment. So we do mapping of heat in urban areas, flood mapping, so more sort of technical phase. And then we move into the phase of setting ambition. So what sort of a city do you want to be in 50 or 100 years time? So what sort of levels of safety, how green do we want to be? That is the ambition phase. And then we have the action phase where we look into concrete measures and also developing pathways to sort of reach that ambition. Now those tools are connected to the European landscape and the data platforms that are out there. So we try to utilize the Copernicus Climate Service as much as possible in the GEOS infrastructures, but we also allow for national data or regional data. So we have combinations of different sources of input data there. A nice sort of new thing in this project is what we call climate stories. And here we are developing storylines for each of the cities. So taking ingredients from the local level, trying to sort of build up an appealing story. And in these stories, we integrate the outcomes of the tool. So it is a story that is sort of evolving throughout the project, and it becomes richer as we move through the project. I will only show you a few snapshots, but I'm very happy that the city of Milan and Logroño are present in this session, and they will show you more about these stories. Well, this is just a snapshot to give you an idea. Here, the city of Logroño is working together with a cartoonist, and it is a story about a family living in Logroño. And here you see we integrate information on historic heat waves, but we integrate that technical data into the story. And here a snapshot from the story of Milan. And here the story is about a young girl growing up in the city. And here we display information on walking distance to green spaces. This was very nice work done by CMCC in this case. And we also look at the projections for future heat waves. And the story is about how also the greening of the city takes time. You know, trees take time to provide shade. So this story takes you along the life of this young girl growing up. And this is Simone here on the bottom right, our partner in Milan, and he was telling or explaining the story at the school of his daughter. So that was very nice. So Simone will show more about this in the session. Now, the ultimate goal of Reachout is to support policy innovations in our city hub, so to support resilience building, identification of adaptation actions and strategies, offering also guidance on how to use the toolkit as a legacy of the project. And we are also trying to sustain the toolkit in a sustainable way. So we're also looking into business models, institutional arrangements to ensure that what we leave behind as a project is sustained. So delivering the toolkit and guidance on how these approaches can be replicated is important in our project. And then we are developing the showcases in our 7 cities to also inspire other cities in Europe to replicate this approach. Yeah, so how does this link into Climate Europe 2? Well, I hope and believe that Reachout will deliver hands-on experiences, and we are actually learning on how this European data can be utilized at the local level, at the city level, and yeah, in that way we hope to enhance the uptake of quality assured climate services, and yeah, I see a lot of scope to work together, and yeah, actually I want to leave it at that and hand it over back to the facilitators. Federico, back to you.
Yes, just a quick reminder, you can easily follow us on social media, so you are welcome to connect with us if you're interested, and if you have any questions. You can find us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. You also find the hashtag to use during this event. And I'm also going to copy in the chat the link to our website, so you can always reach out to us for any questions or comments. And yeah, please follow us. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Asse. I think we can hand over to the next speaker, Nieves. If you're ready, when you're ready.
Thank you, Francesca. So now my objective on the second part of the session is to show you some examples and also like the co-creation framework that it has been used also in Reachout project, because we consider that from the very beginning, if you go to the next slide, Hasse, from the very beginning in Reachout, we started with an initial set of tools that belong to the different partners, which have been developed in previous projects. But what was interesting from our point of view is really this approach of city hubs driven approach, because what we wanted to use is make city hubs. So these tools, try to use them, try to validate them in order to gather feedback from the cities on the real needs and demands, and which is the information that they really need to inform their decisions in order to innovate these tools with this enriched knowledge from the city hubs. So this is what we created at the very beginning of the project. We, as Hasse was saying, we have 3 different production cycles. So in this second production cycle, we change a little bit these tools and satellites that are moving around the different tools, and we have in general different what we call these big bubbles are what we call the cross-hub development teams. But for us, it has been a really enriched experience, because in these teams we try to mix 4 types of profiles. For one side is the tool developer, but on the other side we have the city responsible partner. We also have the city liaison, which is a little bit in the middle of the city, but understanding the urban routines, but also understanding a little bit better what is behind. And we also have the knowledge broker that and with these cross-hub development teams, we try to co-create together how we can innovate in the both sides, how we can create better tools, how can we create better climate services, and how can really implement all this into the real urban routines. So I think that this is it has been really enriched, and which is in another element that it is really interesting that has been pointed by Hasse is the issue of the climate stories, which at the end are a way to summarize in a very personal and emotional way what we are building for the cities. But at the same time, we have to say that have been a really key instrument for climate coaching, because I think that it was mentioned previously by Yaro in another session. We don't call it climate coaching, but I think that is really interesting how we co-create, and because at the end, when you say eureka in this cross-hub development teams, what you really notice which is the transformation that is needed from the climate, from the information that is available in the city, for this information that is available at the regional level, and this is built through this fruitful co-creation and using the climate stories. So if we go to the next slide, during this first development cycle, we decided for the tool development, we faced like three, let's say, levels of the tools. Because we have noticed that not all cities are on the same maturity level, not all users are the same, but also not all the tools are equally used. So the idea is to have different type of tools. One is like the ready-to-use light approach, which is tools that are public, free, available. They use in general public data from open European data or from public regional data. But we also have other customized approaches which need some type of adjustment with local data, which is needed a little of expertise. And finally, we also have more complex customization tools that require more external expertise, more complex data from the cities, and it's not so trivial. So they also need some type of what we call early adopters, because it's not ready for everyone. But it's important how these tools that are on the complex customization can also be moved towards the ready-to-use approach. And this is what we want to do also in Reachout, how to move and be able to provide more tools for as much cities as possible. So if you move to the next slide, this is another important issue, is that we are working with 7 city hubs, and we are building with them this climate story that really are tailored to their city needs. But at the same time, in Reachout, we wanted to offer an upscalable framework. So this is why in Reachout, we are also trying to build urban policy narratives based on city tailored narratives, which can be used to scale up all these climate services and information to other contexts. And the idea is to offer this through the AAA toolkit in order to offer policy level narratives that can use different tools at the different stages of the adaptation cycle. So there will be some tools for the analysis, other for the ambition, and other for the action. And this is what we have in this first production cycle. We deliver some already available tools for the analysis, other for the ambition, and other for the action. We have to say that still at this stage, we need more tools for the action, but analysis as ambition are quite well addressed. If we go to the next slide, and I don't want to extend too much because I think that is really important to go for the questions, and I think that this is also available in the Reachout website, but at the end, there are different climate services that have been produced for extreme heat hazard, like heat waves, information about past and future heat waves, heat maps with a finer resolution for the city, or vulnerability maps. And if you go through these services, climate services are built with different tools. If you go to the next slide, for example, the thermal assessment tool or the social vulnerability tool that is in the next slide, and those are available in the Reachout AAA toolkit that is public accessible for you, and you can check there how is the rationale behind these tools. And A similar thing has been done for the flood hazard, and again, in the we have tools to analyze the impacts for today and future scenarios. Also, some tools for ambition and action phase. So at the end, all this, if you go through the next slide, last slide, which is important, is that at the end, all these examples is at the end what we really want to offer in the Reachout AAA toolkit, because the main goal of the AAA toolkit is really to accelerate urban adaptation and scale up all what we have done in Reachout to other cities by providing really the necessary resources that are needed for this. And the necessary resources, and this is what I wanted to emphasize at the end of the presentation, is not only tools, it's not only technologies. There are also other elements that we are trying to enhance also in Reachout, as the urban policy narratives, the climate stories, that are, let's call, soft tools that really are important to really activate and really raise awareness of how useful these climate services can be for the implementation of really adaptation in cities. So right now, the AAA toolkit is available in the Reachout webpage. Is not everything available there, only the tools, but in the future, the rest of the elements will be there. So we hope it will be interesting for all of you. And if you have any question about all this, we will be happy to answer any doubt or question. Thank you.
Thank you, Nieves. Thank you, Asse, for the very inspiring talk and very informative. Let me check while we wait for some questions to come in. I would have one question for each of you. So, Asse, yesterday there was quite a discussion about trust in the first day of the Webstival, and you mentioned the training programs and also the AAA toolkit. I wonder in what way, based on the Reachout experience, are you accelerating this trust with the cities first, but also the other users that you're having in Reachout? While to you, Nieves, I would ask, and then I leave you the floor, since you have a wide experience in the climate adaptation and also climate services world, what would you say are the top challenges that cities face when it comes to climate services and climate tools? And how do we make sure to put really municipalities and cities kind of at the center of this debate? Thank you. So over to you, maybe.
Shall I go first? Yeah. Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. I think what we see working with the cities is that it is very important to sort of move away a little bit from a sort of perspective on risk and uncertainties and in the data, and move towards, say, setting the ambition and thinking in a more positive way. How do we shape the cities of the future? And so it is not only about having perfect data. It is really also about having these soft approaches sort of in place, where you think about urban greening and the future we want. And by doing this together, we learn a lot about the limitations in our data, but also that even with the imperfect data that we have, we can already make quite a lot of steps in this more positive direction. So.
Thank you. Nieves, maybe over to you, and then we take the questions that are now appearing in the chat.
Yeah, for me, the main challenges for cities is focus on internal engage and external engage. And when I call internal engage, is with regard to the diverse areas that are in the municipalities, that sometimes they work in silos. And what we notice is that they require more deep dialogues about what I'm doing, what are the inputs and outputs that we can work together with this. So for me, let's call it engagement, internal and external engagement. And another issue for me is the data. There is the momentum of the data. And I think that yesterday, Carlo Bontempo was saying that in the last year, it has been an increasing amount of data, but not only climate data, also social, economic. There are huge of data that is distributed along the cloud, and nobody knows how to use it in a homogeneous way. So sometimes for me, this is a great challenge. That is something that we are also dealing with Reachout, but I think that is an interesting point.
So let's take the questions on the floor, okay? There are two that appeared. Maybe if you feel like asking the question yourself, please raise your hand and I'll give you the floor. I'm speaking specifically to Sayoa and Demetri. Otherwise, I can read it very, very easily. And Roger, I see your hands first. I will take potentially the first question by Sayoa, and then I'll pass the floor to you, Roger. So do you have information regarding which tools available in the AAA toolkit have been accessed to a greater extent? And if so, what type of tools are they?
Yeah, that is a very good question, because right now the tools have been used just with the 7 city hubs. And what happened is that the Mediterranean cities, as in my presentation I didn't say, but there are Logroño, Milan, and Athens are more worried about extreme heats. So they have been the first one using this thermal assessment tool and also the vulnerability tool, which is one of the key ones that most of the cities have selected. The social vulnerability tool is one of the selected ones. And there are other cities more of the Northern Europe that they haven't not choose by default heat-related hazard, but they are more worried about pluvial or fluvial flooding. So this is as a simple and quick answer for Sayoa.
Thank you. Demetri, I'll put you on hold for a second and I'll pass the floor to Roger, who has his hand up. Please, Roger.
Thank you very much, Francesca. I was very interested in the comment that Hassa made just a little bit when he was answering the first question. One of the things I'm very interested in and believe that one of the problems we're having with some of the tools is that the methodology that we have for risk assessment may not be fit for purpose, particularly when we're trying to identify adaptation options. This has been an issue that I know myself and a couple of other people have been very much concerned about. And I was wondering if Haas's comment about what they were not, I think I heard that you were saying that they weren't really following risk assessment. They were interested in other approaches. And I believe that that could be the reason why. It's because that risk assessment approach, I don't think it's fit for purpose anymore when we're doing adaptation. Your thoughts, Hassa? I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. I fully agree with you, actually. So, yeah, it's a small anecdote. I've done a vulnerability assessment for Bangladesh, for the country of Bangladesh, following the procedure with the vulnerability, sensitivity, adaptive capacity, making all these overlays. And what you end up with is a black box. And no one understands what it actually entails. And working with the cities, we found they do want to follow a different approach. Of course, you need a sense of urgency, and for that you need to have information on risk and projections and all that. But immediately they start thinking, how do we shape the future we want? And turning the framing around to something more positive. And that's why with this AAA toolkit, we thought, well, of course, there is the analysis phase, and that's all important, but you need to jump to a phase of setting the ambition, setting the scene. What do you want to achieve? And then you have a different type of conversation, and our tools and our climate services should be tailored towards that need and move away perhaps a little bit from the traditional risk assessment type of work.
Yeah, I think so. That I believe that the risk assessment has some utility, but it has greater utility when we start to look at implementation. What are the risks associated with implementation? And that's where we're falling down on is that we're not really doing risks of implementation. And because that modifies and changes your adaptation portfolio. So it's just I'm interested, and I'm really interested in what you're doing in Reachout and learning from that, because I think that's, this tradition of just going, let's do a risk assessment and it'll identify, where we need to adapt and what we need to do. No. It's something else. So I'm very interested in and positive about what you're doing in Reachout. Thank you.
Perhaps we can take, sorry, Demetrio again, but we can follow up with Yuli, apologies if I misspell, question. There is, and the question is, I'm curious to hear how you work with future stories. Since we're talking about kind of the failures or the limitation of the risk assessments, do you think the future stories are actually complementing risk assessment in any way, or in what way are they helping? The question is also asking if you can share an example of this work.
Yes, indeed, we are going to share an example in a few minutes, because Simone from Milano is going to show exactly the climate story developed for Milano. And it's really interesting what Julie is saying, because in the climate stories, it's interesting to try to see not only what are my problems today, what is going to happen in 20, 30 years time, and try to visualize who I'm going to be myself in that time, what is going to happen to my children. And this is the approach that really create empathy on the people that is reading and looking at these stories. And I think that is really important to work with these future stories and in an understandable way, not just fair, but also understandable a way for the citizens and for the urban managers.
Yes, I would then finally, Demetrio, the question that he is posing is that given city hubs depend upon local politician acceptance, and so democratic mandate and support, which in turn should depend upon consensus, is basically suggesting the citizen awareness is a sort of currency in a way. So is asking to what extent such an aspect is or should be considered in the business model or collateral analysis, for example, using the PESTLE framework.
Well, you know all about that PESTLE
That's
framework. Yeah.
I mean, yes,
I was laughing also.
We asked the PESTLE framework to the provider, but would you say that a PESTLE framework asked, for example, to the city hub can work at the same level?
I don't know the PESTLE framework well enough, I guess, but I do agree that having citizen awareness is really important. And yeah, we hope that the climate stories also help to sort of reach out to citizens. But maybe Simone or Elena can say a few words on that. Yeah, we're also working on crowdsourcing opportunities. So trying to really involve the public in yeah, also sort of giving their experience on what they see happening in the city. So what happens after a heat wave, how was it experienced by the public? And through crowdsourcing, we are trying to source that information into the stories as well.
So I'm aware the time is very tight if we keep on going with the discussion without leaving the city hubs the floor. So I will leave the city hubs the floor. I pass the floor to you, Federico.
Yes, so now since also given the interest in the chat, I think now let's go in the work that some of our city hubs are doing. We have a representative from Logroño in Spain and Milan in Italy. So I leave the floor immediately to Elena from Logroño City Council and the Economic Development and the European funding area. So Elena, the floor is yours.
Hi, hello everyone from the City Hub of Logroño. I'm really excited to participate in this interesting session and share with all of you some important points of our climate story. Let me share the screen to show you my little presentation. Okay. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's go. So I'm going to briefly show you the case of our City Hub answering these three questions. What the climate story of our city is all about, and how we develop the ideas of the story, and which have been the key learnings and the main lessons learned with this climate story. First of all, we try to create with our climate story something like a new scenario or ecosystem of strongly interconnected characters and stories. This ecosystem helps us to explain the main impact of climate change, as well as the main outcomes and benefits from the project. What we want to achieve with this story was to share the lives and experiences of different group of people living in our city, and how they experience the climate change in their daily lives, and how the heat waves impact in all the daily lives also, and what tools from Reachout are available to help them. As a starting point, as we said, we choose the main topic. This is the common thread of the story, and it was heat. From the main climate risk and impact of our city, we decide to work on heat because there is little knowledge on our city council on this topic. So our story focus on heat, in particular in heat waves. And after we choose the target audience. So we focus on the most vulnerable people on heat impact. There were children and elderly people, and we decide to focus on this. But the climate story should address all citizens in general. So to build a story, we use different characters. We represent different generations because we have parents, grandparents, teenagers as well, and a character with different socioeconomic situations, with different jobs from different sectors, and also from different neighborhoods, because we want to show people that are living in different places, closer to green areas or further from green areas, because this is important to point out. And to represent these characters and maybe make the story more attractive or more friendly, we use drawings made by a local artist. This person was really committed to the fight against climate change, and he decided to collaborate with us with these friendly drawings. So the first situation that we can see in our story, so we began the story with a hot day in June in the region of La Rioja, because we were suffering a heat wave, and our characters are getting ready for a normal day. Parents go to work, children go to school, and we explain that all of them are feeling tired and really worried because of the hot weather of today. So from here, we continue the story with these characters, but in parallel, we want to show the different technical data, references and analysis of the heat waves, plots and heat maps, because for us, it's really important to understand the research and analysis behind the climate story. And how we develop all the idea for build this story. So we developed the idea following a process, and we started with identify connections between stakeholders. We identify stakeholders and potential stakeholders to help us to build the story, and also to create the atmosphere into Reachout. We work with staff from different units in our city council. We have technical staff and general managers from the areas of strategic urban planning, environment, mobility, public space, but also we involve staff from professional associations, private sectors, civil society, that is different potential end users profiles of the climate services and from Reachout. After this, we held different conversations between technical partners, knowledge brokers, and city representatives from the different city hubs to talk about the main Reachout outcomes, to identify city needs and the main impact and challenges for every city hub, and also to identify the city visions and urban strategies to be developed, and how to bring all these ideas together to bring these ideas closer to citizens, because it is really important for citizens understand the idea that we want to implement in our city. After this step, we organize internal meetings where we try to translate the different technical elements into easy to understand messages and visuals, because we believe an important issue was to show the direct connection between the story and the associated scientific data and tools. And the last step was the development of co-creation activities, where we define the urban visions and the climate impact, as well as the goals to achieve in the project. Then with all these elements and with all these ingredients, which have been the key learnings. So we believe that the project and the climate story contribute to learn about climate change and the main impact in our city. Also show how the heat or other hazards for our city affect climate, affect citizens. Also create a sense of urgency about climate resilience, and of course contribute to think about or identify the main actions to reduce the negative effect of climate change. So these are actions that all citizens can implement. And finally, now we are at the point of completing some details of our climate story, and we will launch very soon in the website of Reachout. So these were the key points of our climate story. I hope you like it. And this is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you very much. If you have questions, please write it in the chat. I go very quickly to, I land in Milan. Simone, feel free to share your screen and present the story map, so we can also hear from you. And yeah, maybe Yopo, we will have a couple of minutes in the end to take some questions if there are any. Thanks. We can see your screen.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting us to share our City Hub experience on climate story and with the Reachout project. I'm the project manager for City of Milano. Our department is the Department of Urban Resilience, and we are one of the cities involved in the project. And as introduced Elena, we are also working with the support of climate adaptation services and NGI on the climate story of our city. And you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The story is set in Milano on one of the hottest day of last summer. And so we're talking about heat and about heat waves, and but also about tree, about solution, about benefits from nature-based solution. So just for introduction, we talk about Ambrogio and his granddaughter, and we use this tool especially for the citizen engagement activities foreseen in our climate and air plan. It is the main plan for adaptation and resilience strategy. And so it's strictly connected for citizens. So there are, but okay, we can see, and then we can answer some questions. Okay. The story start, and Ambrogio, the grandfather, say, Gaia, we need some shade because it's very hot, the city, and especially during the night. And so they start to walk to the park, but what they saw once they arrived at the park took them by surprise, because the heat of last weeks or the latest weeks, some trees have died and the lake level has decreased. So this is what really happened in Lambro Park last summer in Milan. So for this, the Milanese people will remember 2022 as one of the hottest summer here. And here we have the first plot produced by Tecnalia. All the plots in this story are produced by Tecnalia, CMCC, and Climate Adaptation Services as part of the Reachout project. And here we have the heat waves, the whipped waves bubble plot that show as when Ambrogio was in 30. This kind of heat waves used to be an exception, but now it starts to be almost normally. And this is the first plot that we combine with our story. And then because of the climate change, the heat wave will for sure increase. And for Gaia, heat waves are going to become a more regular things, not just an exception as for her grandfather. Here we have the situation when Ambrogio was in 30, and now almost 1 for a year, and then 1.5, and then 3 and more for a year. So this is the result of the thermal assessment tool. So we translate in this story. So Ambrogio tells the granddaughter, so we need to act now in order to, because the plant that the tree that we plant now will provide shade for our children. So in this plot, you can see how we combine the tree life with the evolution of the urban heat wave. No, so we need to plant now because the problem is in the forthcoming years. So, and there is more in this section. We introduce the several benefits from planting tree regarding mitigation, regarding air quality, and regarding adaptation, city adaptation, and also improve the residents' health by the walk on nature and the green that in the city. I move a little bit forward because we don't have enough time. So after introduce the problem and what they want to do, Ambrogio and Gaia, we can see some maps to highlight the heat waves and the urban heat island effect. Here we have the map produced by Technalia, the urban heat island effect on the city. The red part is the hottest part of the city, and the blue the coolest part. And this is the land surface temperature data, and we combine this map with another map produced by CMCC for the Reachout project. That is the green space of the city. So the green space is not just tree, but also green infrastructure, green roof, and green wall, and all the other. So moving the slide bar, we can see the strong connection between heat island, urban heat island, and the cover and the green space. And if I move from a park, I can see really the difference. But there is also some more information that we can reach from this map. That is the walking distance from every neighbor to the green space. And also this map is from CMCC, and we can see the different color and the different walking distance foreseen for reach the green space. So this also help us to manage the future plantation activity, reforestation activity, because we are talking a lot about urban forestry, and this help us to discover the best place, the best neighbor to act. The story. This is the last map of the story, but we finish with three opportunities to learn more. One is about the project, with the link of the project. One is about what is doing the city of Milano to improve the green area, as with the project Forestami, and also what the citizen can do to mitigate, to reduce the carbon footprint through the climate campaigner, that is an app developed in another European project in which we are involved. So we try to also engage other projects and do so. This is our story. Thank you for.
Thank you very much, Simone. I think it's a great example, and it's nice to see also a concrete draft of a climate story map. Since there are no questions in the chat, maybe it's interesting, Simone, if you can say what are the next steps and how you're going to use the story map. So if you're going to publish somewhere, and which engagement activities you're planning.
Yeah. Yes.
In 1 minute, possibly.
Yes, as I told before, we have a citizen activity foreseen in our plan, and so we will use this strong tool for citizen activity as, for example, the citizen fair that will be this next weekend in Milano. Fa la cosa giusta is a fair about the critical consumption. And then, for example, for cities event as the Milano Green Week during in autumn, by the end of next September. But we will also use it for the permanent citizen assembly to engage the assembly, and also in the municipality newsletter. So there are several activity already planned, and more and more activity that we will plan. We will use, but not only for the external engagement, as said before, Nives, but also for internal engagement. This is very important. So yeah. This is like the way to start to to promote a dialogue between between several departments in the city. So we can, I don't know if it's okay.
Yes, no, you touch a great point, and it's also what I wanted to emphasize, that we realize also as a direct experience that the power of the climate story maps does not only rely on being an engagement tool for the community, stakeholders, and citizens, but it's also a great tool to bring together different departments. So it also works very effectively and powerfully as a tool to bring together different departments and work together on the same climate challenges within a municipality. And maybe this touches a bit of what Marina was writing down in the chat. The story maps at a certain point will be available also on the website of Reachout, so they will be published. So follow us, and sooner or later they will be available, and also the other city apps will publish and create their own story maps. I think we really have a few seconds left, so the countdown starts, as Yaro said. I would like to thank our speakers and thank you all very much for your participation in today's sessions. Please do not hesitate to contact us for any questions or comments or any follow-up and possibilities for synergies and collaboration in future. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Super interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye bye.